Call the meeting to order and ask for a roll call.
Blunier.
Here.
Leach.
Here.
Lehman.
Here.
Menold. Newman.
Here.
Parrott.
Here.
We have a quorum.
If you join me in Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There is no public hearings tonight, but we do have a presentation. So tonight is a good night for Morton, Illinois. It's one of those nights where we can show where all the boards have been working together. So I'd like to introduce our Director of Parks and Recreation, Joel Dickerson. And what we have before the board is Resolution 30-20, and it's an agreement where Ulrich Wildlife Preserve was donated to Forest Park Foundation back in 1969, and in 1970, it was donated to Morton. So it's been 50 years, and I know for the last 23 years of my term, we keep trying to think of how and what we're going to do with this. Well, tonight the public can know that the boards have honored the request of the gentleman that donated it. We're doing what he wanted with it, to keep it a wildlife preserve. And by doing that, we're going to donate all 72.5 acres to the Morton Park District. And the Morton Park District knows how to run parks, and they should be in charge of this. So tonight I have Joel with me, and he can explain what he's going to do with that. In this agreement, we have where the Park District owns 2.76 acres along Detroit between Birchwood and the railroad track across the street. And the Park District is donating that to the village board. We've agreed that when that ground gets developed, we will install the bike trail at our expense. And I think it rightfully so, as that ground gets developed, the village trustees should be in charge of that development. We don't have to go through some boards. So again, thanks for the Park District for making this all work. And so I'm going to turn it over to you, Joel.
Awesome. Thank you, Mayor Kaufman. Thank you, trustees, for giving me the time this evening to talk about a few of my thoughts regarding this transfer and overall just the level of cooperation that we are able to have here. It was a couple years ago when we started having these conversations about Ulrich Wildlife Preserve and the property that the Park District owned here along Detroit Street. And after going out and visiting this property the first few times, it became clear very quickly that there was some untapped potential for outdoor recreation at the Wildlife Preserve property, and that there was real potential for things that we could do that would benefit the community. There's a simple marker that sits at the former entrance, what would have been the entrance to this property, and it states, and I've written this down here, these 72 acres of land known as the Ulrich Wildlife Preserve are donated by Dr. and Mrs. Wilbur D. Ulrich to preserve these woods and wildlife so that future generations may know of God's magnificent handiwork. The stone's dated 1967, and I think it's pretty clear when you read that inscription to understand what the intention was for the property. As you consider tonight this transfer with the Park District and the Village of Morton, if you're to take a look at any recent survey of participation in outdoor recreation activities nationwide and specifically in our area, there's a handful of items that will appear at the top of the lists for all of these surveys, and they include running, biking, trail riding, trail biking, trail running, hiking, fishing, and camping. We've been able to make a number of acquisitions here at the Park District and improvements over the last couple of years that I think will prove to be great steps in the right direction of providing our community with new parks and opportunities for getting out and enjoying nature and really being able to participate in a number of these activities that have become very popular activities for people to get out. As we look at childhood obesity and all types of other health-related issues nationwide as well as in our area, these types of outdoor recreation activities are important for our community, the health of our community, and basically being able to disconnect and get out and enjoy nature. I'd like to thank the mayor for always being able to get the right people in the right room at the right time to have the right conversation. There's a lot of right things that I just said there. I've worked in a number of communities throughout this state, and I will say that the level of cooperation between our different public entities is unique and special. We've been able to complete a number of projects over the last handful of years that have involved the Village of Morton, the Morton Park District, School District 709, the Library District, Morton Township, all of our entities working together with ultimately the same goal, and that goal is to better supply a better life for those community members that we have here. Craig Laudermilk, Pat McGrath, we've been talking about this for a long time. Our community is lucky to have everyone who's been involved making these things happen and getting it done. So I appreciate all of the work, and appreciate you guys considering it tonight. And everybody wants to know what we're planning on doing with it, I'm sure. We are going to be working with the Peoria Area Mountain Biking Association to start establishing a network of trails through this property. If you get out there, it's beautiful. There's a lot of ravines, there's a lot of hills. There's a pond. There's just some beautiful natural property out there that we believe, falling in the spirit of the dedication from 1967, that we are going to get traffic out there, positive traffic in the right direction, and benefit everyone. Anybody have any questions?
And two, I'd like to thank the staff. You know, a part-time mayor can't do this. Pat McGrath, Craig, and Joel had to write letters, and that took a while and get it. So a lot of hands were on this, but it takes a village board, want to be progressive, and we did the right thing. So in that, I'd like to ask for a motion for Resolution 30-20.
Move approval of Resolution 30-20.
Second.
Any questions? Call the roll.
Leach.
Yes.
Lehman.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Parrott.
Yes.
Blunier.
Yes.
Motion passes.
There you go, Joe. First of May.
That's right.
Thank you. Any public comment tonight?
Good evening, Mayor and trustees and everyone. Great to have a crowd here tonight. Certainly, that was very exciting for that approval. Quality of place for our community is something we talk often about, have so many great aspects of our Morton community, so exciting tonight to add over 72 acres for people to get out and explore. Leanne Brown, I'm with the Morton Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development Council. A few updates to share with everyone. If you were unable to attend our legislative roundtable on Friday with Senator Bill Brady, Representative Keith Summer, our Illinois Chamber and U.S. Chamber, we have some notes from that we can share online, or if you want information, give us a call. But if you'd like to join the Illinois Chamber Lobby Day, that will take place on Wednesday, March 18th, over in Springfield. Again, that's March 18th for Illinois Chamber Lobby Day. Businesses, citizens are all welcome to join us down in Springfield. Also, upcoming, we have our Morton Mix session taking place in this room on March 10th. It's just a great activity for businesses to gather and learn information. And then Forecast Breakfast, another great opportunity to bring the community together and celebrate many things that are happening throughout all of our taxing bodies. That will take place in April 16th. And you will get to have pumpkin pancakes as well. So if that's not enough to come, you can hear from all of our taxing bodies. But I did share with the trustees, if you'd like to invite somebody, that's what these tickets are for that. And then a couple EDC updates. Of course, 430 Scones open on Friday, so a great new addition. If you were out and about over the weekend, certainly on Sunday with the great weather, Dairy Queen was quite busy, so that was fun to see. And then Best Western, we can formally welcome them to town. The Morton Inn is now formally the Best Western. Great improvements over there at that hotel, inside out, all rooms. Every inch of that place has been remodeled and updated, and they have their final approval for being Best Western. So sign is up, and they are ready to welcome guests. And then also Memorial Plaza, thought I'd flag to everybody. We are still accepting pavers for those that want to purchase a paver in remembrance of somebody, to honor somebody, to recognize those that have served. We will be able to accept those up through April 1st, and then we will have time to engrave them for the Memorial Day celebration. So if you know of anybody that would like to do that, I shared the form with the trustees. You can get one on our website or swing by our office. And with that, any questions or comments?
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'd also like to welcome all the Bradley students here tonight. And also 430 Scones across the street from my house is extremely busy. My little dog in the window has a lot to watch. So the consent agenda, is there anybody else want to make a public comment? None? The consent agenda is approval of the minutes, the regular meeting, February 17th, 2020, and the closed sessions, February 17th, 2020, and the approval of the bills.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Call the roll.
Blunier,
Yes.
Leach.
Yes.
Lehman.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Parrot.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. I have nothing tonight, village clerk,
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
village administrator.
I have something tonight, Your Honor. I'm going to present the preliminary budget for the fiscal year 2021, which is May 1st, 20 through April 30th of 21. I'm just going to give you, I'm not going to go line by line of this. I gave everyone, it's in the packet, just an overview, but I just want to go through and highlight a few things. Uh-oh.
Working now. Technical difficulties.
We're having some technical difficulties here. Overall, the budget deficit is sitting at 4.6 million. As we did last year, we have budgeted 7 million this year for the biological upgrades to the water treatment system. That money was, like I said, budgeted last year, but did not get any of it expended last year. So we have budgeted that again. We probably will hone that number in prior to the appropriations in July. But as the current time, we've got that in there as a placeholder. As you know, we've always budgeted conservatively. So that $7 million project will be coming out of reserve cash that we have on hand for that. So currently, it does show a deficit of 4.6 million, but the majority of the reason is because of that $7 million expenditure that's budgeted for that project. Point over here. Well, that's all right. Basically, of the budget deficit, the general fund is always a question. Right now, we're sitting with about a $50,000 surplus in the general fund budget. The highest deficit budget for any specific fund is then again the water treatment, which is a $5.5 million deficit in the budget. Overall, on our capital improvements, we've got $12.3 million in capital outlay for 2021. Of that, $2.8 million is going to be for street improvements between the general fund and the motor fuel fund. And then again, the $7 million in water treatment. And then this page just basically outlines some of the larger dollar items that are in the other funds that we... So just graphically, I always, personally, I see things better graphically than I do in numbers. So I just put in this is a graph of the revenues for all of our funds combined and shown in pie shapes for each individual fund. The largest of which is 37% of the revenue is going to be brought into the general fund. And then it goes to the gas fund is 25%, and the water and sewer fund are 22%. So of those three, they make up 84% of the revenue for the entire village. So the next slide is the expenses. On the other hand, as with the project on the water and sewer fund, the water and sewer fund is the largest dollar amount in the expenses in the budget this time at 35%. Then the general fund is at 32.3, and the gas fund is at 19.4, and those total 86.7% of the overall expenses. And then to look at it, all the expenses across the entire village by type. As usual, personnel gets the biggest number. 30% of our budget in operating expenses is for personnel. 27% is for contractual. And then, of course, down at the bottom there, the capital outlay, once again, is the highest of overall at 36%, including that $7 million. If I'm going too fast, yell at me. I know you probably all are so excited you want me to slow down. The next is on the general fund specifically. This is just a graphical representation over the last 10 years of the general fund. Blue is revenues, red is expenditures. As you can see to the far right there in 2021, it's pretty even because there we come in with about a $50,000 surplus, so we're expending just about as much as we're taking in for the fiscal year of 21. And then the revenues by type, once again, breaking those down in a pie shape. The pie on the left is overall revenues for the general fund, and then it's extrapolated out into the smaller one with the orange piece is the largest piece. That represents the intergovernment revenues. Those are our sales tax, our use tax, our income tax, those types of taxes that we receive through the state of Illinois. Those represent 62.2% of our total revenue on the general fund, and of that big orange piece, that's our sales tax. It's overall, it's 38.6% of the revenue for the general fund. We've had discussions in the past about the increase in online purchases, affecting our sales tax. Luckily, here in Morton, we seem to still stay pretty stable as far as sales tax, having a little bit of growth every year. We haven't had the big box store loss effect as Peoria has seen, and the East Peoria is seeing also. So the next largest piece of revenue is our state income tax. It comes in about 14% of our total revenue. So, and then our general fund expenditures by type. Once again, the personnel is just about exactly 50% of what our costs are, because our general fund represents our administrative police force, our volunteer firemen, our paramedics, our administrative side on our public works, and our maintenance of the plaza and that type of thing. So those are all generally made up. The largest portion of that is personnel itself rather than of purchasing any large items. So.
Julie, motor fuel tax, is it included in this?
No,
Thank you.
because it's on the motor fuel tax fund. So. Next fund is the gas fund. Again, we have a graphical representation of revenues versus expenses. As you can see, Morton, I feel, is blessed to have its natural gas fund, because those blue bars are generally, all but 1 year of those, the blue bar is higher than the red bars. So pretty much we do, have a good profit coming in from our gas sales to the residents of Morton. So I added these. I don't know. That's weird. Well, as you can't see on there, the red thing that you can't tell what it is contractual purchases, which is made up of, the main item in there is our purchase of natural gas, which is 4.3% of that red chunk that is actually 80% of the expenditures for the gas fund. On the water and sewer fund, there again, the revenue versus expenses. The $7 million on the far right is what's causing that red expenditure bar to be so large? Okay, I don't know what's going on. I think we're gonna just go throw the thing in the garbage. No, I mean, anyway, on this graph.
I'm not buying a new one.
Yeah.
Thank you. Perfect
Yeah, I guess. It looks okay over there, but anyway. On the teal, I guess we call it the teal wedge there, that is capital outlay of 61.5%, which there again includes the $7 million for the water treatment project. And last but not least, as far as the major funds that I included, was a stormwater fund, graphically representing the revenues versus expenses. This fund tends to have a lot of expenses taking on for street improvements. We've been replacing a lot of manholes and all.
Curb and gutter,
I was gonna say, what
manholes,
are those
yeah.
things called? You know, so that's what this fund does. At times, seems to have a lot of expenses more so than revenue, but they still maintain a small amount of reserves of about $1 million in that fund. And we'll, hey, I got a 19.1 number showed up there. Anyway, the teal here again is 54.9% of the expenditures is capital outlay, once again, of $659,000. But overall, I gave you each a copy of the detailed budget, but I just wanted to go just highlight some of the major points in it. We will be looking at this over the next 2 weeks. If you have any concerns with the departments you oversee, want to see any numbers tweaked, let me know. See anything that we've omitted, we'll be sure. You know, as you know, Morton, we approve a budget prior to the beginning of the fiscal year in May. But then we do not really legally are not tied to those numbers until the appropriations ordinance is passed in July. And so these numbers we will probably tweak even further between now and July. So, anybody have any questions?
Thank you.
What you got, Ken?
The 911 Consolidated Center Fund.
Uh-huh.
The revenue on that is what we're receiving in the way of
Right.
lease agreement or whatever.
Right.
Now on the expense side, all of that, I mean, it looks like almost a pass-through.
Right.
Now all of that isn't maintenance, right?
It's the share of
Of maintenance and.
utilities and security on the building and everything that goes into actually operating that facility.
Yeah, I know there's detailed budget in there, here.
Right.
Haven't really looked it up. But there, I mean, it covers all your operating expenses.
Right.
And then
Well-
some surplus after that, or, you know, I guess where I'm going with this, is there anything that theoretically is paying off the capital that we put into that?
It'd be a stretch to say that, you know, for anyone to rent that size of space for the amount that we're renting it for is a pretty good deal.
Well, that's kind of the point again, I guess.
Right.
I mean, I harped
I-
on this a little bit some time ago, but
Yeah.
seems like it's a real bargain.
Yeah, I would
somebody.
say that the amount that's being passed back through to the general fund to offset some of the expenses of the building, there's probably a small amount of that can be considered actually repayment of the cost of the improvements. But if you take a percentage share of square footage, it's probably pretty close to what it cost us to operate it.
Operate and maintain it.
Right.
And then, if I could,
No, go.
and then on the IMRF fund, Social Security, I noticed there were some deficits
Right.
projected, but wasn't there something that you were doing
Right.
to, because somehow you accumulated,
We had accumulated, in the past, prior to my coming to the village, the IMRF and Social Security were all considered one fund, which makes it difficult for us to track of the property tax revenues that we levied for, how much of it is actually being spent for which expense. So we split those two up. There was a lot of cash left in that account I don't even remember off the top of my head how much cash was in there. But by law, you're not supposed to have more than 1 year's, isn't it, Pat?
It's a little, yeah, so.
You know, an estimate of 1 year's in reserves, in expenses in that special revenue funds. You're not supposed to levy a large tax and then build up this large amount of money that you're not expending. So I have been I've decreased, I think this year, on the IMRF fund, I'm only anticipating about $50,000 in property taxes. I have lowered the levy on the property tax side to lower the revenues to use up that excess cash.
Right.
This is probably going to be, as you can see, the expected cash on those two funds is going to be total about $95,000 at the end of the year. That'll probably be the end of it. I'll have to go back to where I'm levying more for those two funds to cover their operating expenses, which in essence will lower the amount that can be
In
levied for the
following
general
years,
fund.
in
Right.
future
Right.
years.
Right.
And then just to clarify, all your IMRF, well, I guess IMRF, police, and then I believe also the fire pension fund, the revenues on the revenue side, that's all through tax levy, is it not? Property tax
Other
levy?
than investment gains, yes.
Yeah, right. But property tax levy
Right.
covers that.
Right.
And I guess just a question for Craig.
Sure.
The capital improvements on the street side, how does that compare with last year? Do you remember that number? Kind of the overall number? You know,
I think it's
1.9
less,
this year.
but I don't have it in front of me for last year, but I think it's less.
I was thinking it was over.
I mean, wasn't last year a little more than what we've been doing the last couple of years?
Maybe a little bit, yeah. More on the overlay side.
Yeah.
Yep.
It just looks like it's getting pretty skinny to me.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. It probably is a little bit. Just trying to get ahead on a few things, but I think I really feel good about the future, especially as far as the capital projects. Once we get out ahead of Second and Tyler and Ballman, I would hope to catch back up. And in previous years we did, it almost was like 1 year we did higher, curb and gutter and patching, and the next year have a big overlay. Just trying to fit the contractors that do the work to have a bigger overlay. So that's kind of what I'm looking at right now. But I would say it's down from what it's not where it needs to be, but I feel pretty good going forward.
It's not where it needs to be.
And I'm not sure it'll ever be where it
I
needs
would
to
agree.
be.
I will note, and I'm glad to see at least the engineering for North Missouri
Yes.
in there. I know I've hounded you a little bit about that. I'm glad at least we got the engineering there, see what it might
Yeah.
cost us ultimately. And
Yeah. And that's
Thank you.
one that will first use our lateral launch truck. That we're slowly getting into examining the laterals on the sanitary sewer. So Missouri is probably the first one. We've done that already. It's just a matter of analyzing and seeing. Hopefully the sewer's in pretty good shape, but we're going to start the program for that, which may, the saying goes, if you don't want to find anything, don't go looking. So we're going looking. So I'm a little nervous, but I think the village has done a really good job historically. We just haven't really looked at laterals. So that could cause us to, kind of gear back up for more capitals in relation to the condition of, sanitary laterals.
yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Chief of Police,
I have nothing this evening.
thank you. Corporation Counsel,
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
and again, thanks for all your work on the outreach. Director of Fire and Emergency Services,
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
and Director of Public Works.
Yeah, in front of you tonight, I've got item A. This is Resolution 29-20. This is a resolution authorizing electrical maintenance agreement with Laser Electric Incorporated. Just real quick, this is kind of a formality. We've been using them in the past, but just trying to put something on paper.
Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
making comments?
Yeah, I mean, we worked with Laser Electric. They're in Peoria, but we worked with them for, gosh, well over a decade. The biggest thing they provide for us, obviously, number one is traffic signal maintenance. So whenever there's a problem, they're Johnny on the spot. And then they also happen to help us with all of our street lighting. There's a chance in the future for locals. They don't want to get into the bucket truck work, and Laser is able to do that for us. So anyway, I can't say enough good about Jason Snyder that works for Laser and really provides a great service. So this just kind of puts it on paper, formally. This goes through January of '23.
Go ahead.
Greg, if you could remind me on the signal maintenance, those that are IDOT responsibility. I mean, they're in the village here. You still have IDOT doing their.
We have IDOT, and then we have some that are 50-50 too. So
Right.
maintenance and electricity too.
Well, I imagine there's a lot 50-50.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
50-50s.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then any that village owns, obviously we do ourselves.
Exactly.
Now, how does it, so when they're out doing a signal on that's on the IDOT system, normally, at least I believe the way it's billed to IDOT, and then we pay a share of that back to the state.
Around it.
It's vice versa. It's the other way around. We'll bill them.
Oh, okay. So
Yep.
so we're billing IDOT.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
So Laser would do all that work then. I know Laser does a lot of the IDOT work.
Well, and that's where it works out great. They do a lot of the IDOT work.
So they're doing the work and we're billing IDOT then.
Exactly.
Okay, that's
Yep.
a little different than what
Yep.
I understood. Okay. Very good.
Any other questions? Call the vote.
Lehman.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Parrot.
Yes.
Blunier.
Yes.
Leach.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Zoning and Code Enforcement Officer.
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Thank you. Village trustees, anything tonight? We do need a closed session.
Closed session is requested tonight for the purpose of discussing the purchase of real property per 5 ILCS 120/2C5 and for the purpose of discussing collective negotiating matters between the village and its employees or their representatives per 5 ILCS 120/2C2.
Thank you. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Excuse me, roll call that.
Roll call, you're right.
Newman.
Yes.
Parrot.
Yes.
Blunier.
Yes.
Leach.
Yes.
Lehman.
Yes.
We're adjourned.